What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. Well, we get some breaking news today. It's actually, to me, it's shocking, but I think it's actually a great move, to be totally honest with you. I'm going to go into why. So, you may have already heard that the Mr. Olympia was actually sold today. Jake Wood is the individual's name who purchased it, and apparently he owns the Wings of Strength, and he's kind of responsible for bringing women's bodybuilding back in the last couple of years. Like, he's been really making a push for that. So, he actually purchased the Mr. Olympia. Now, I have been going to the Olympia since 2013. I made a decision to go to the Olympia that year for the first time because my good friend Jay Cutler was competing, which would actually be his last competition. And then we kind of knew that was what was happening. And he was coming back from an injury. I said, you know what? I've always wanted to go to the Olympia and see. I never saw Jay's first show, but seeing his last time on stage would be awesome. I want to be present for that. So we went, and it was like the most unbelievable experience. Like, as far as being like a bodybuilding fan, it was the ultimate. It was like, I know FIBO and Body Power, I know, but for me, they didn't have FIBO and Body Power and stuff like that back in the day. Like me, the whole time since I was in high school to now, when I first started competing in bodybuilding, the Olympia has been the pinnacle, right? It's the biggest show of the year. It's the main title. Whoever wins that is the best in the world. That was it. So I went to the Olympia that year, and it was like the expo was huge. All the main stars were there. All the major companies were there. They were giving out free everything. It was like supplements galore. They were giving out free T-shirts, shaker bottles. We had like bags. Like, it was like we were trick-or-treating at the Olympia. Like, we had bags full of shit that we'd like take them and put them in the hotel and then come back because we stayed at it used to be the Hilton, the Westgate, which is actually attached to the Olympia. So basically, we just hop on the tram, go back, drop the shit out of the room, go back to the Olympia, the expo again. And it was an awesome experience. And I couldn't wait to go the next year, like 2014, you know what I mean? And then 2014, I was signed with a 5% nutrition. So I got to take part in my first expo up there doing that. I mean, it was just like, getting to the Olympia every year was a main goal. You know what I mean? Like, you worked all year long really hard to get to the Olympia, to see what new companies were out, who was going to win again. I mean, it was dominated by Phil and Ronnie, and of course you had Jay in there and Dexter. So you never knew who was going to win in between those dynasties that they had. And it was just the ultimate, man. As far as being a bodybuilding fan, that was the ultimate place to be, right? And then over the years, we noticed, since I was working with these different companies, it was 5%, Isatori, then Primeval eventually. I noticed that many of the companies that were there were downsizing. They got bigger for a little while, then they started downsizing quite a bit. And then it came to the point where they weren't giving out free product anymore. They'd mix it up and you'd be able to taste it, like a little bit in a cup, like taste it, but you couldn't really know how it worked or anything. And they give you like a flyer with it. So like they were cutting costs, right? And I didn't really understand what that was all about. I was like, oh, these cheap-ass companies, like what the fuck is going on? I was kind of shitty about it, because I was still a fan. Until I got working with Primeval, and then I really understood what these things were starting to cost. And we're talking about, a regular, let's say you really wanted to do a booth, like you wanted to be impressive. It's the big thing. You could look at spending $100,000 for the weekend just on the booth. Like, we had a backdrop that we had for Primeval. It was like $3,000 for the backdrop. And I was like, well, at least we can take it to the Arnold. No, you got to give it back to the Olympia. They destroy it. You buy another one next year. Like, there were so many, like, it was just fee after fee after fee after fee. Wi-Fi. Oh, no more free Wi-Fi. You got to pay fucking $20 a day for Wi-Fi in there. And I'm like, man, it was just so much bullshit that it got to the point where some of the big companies were pulling out. Like last year, I don't think Primeval was even, we'll get to last year in a second, this past year in 2019. But like companies like Isatori started not going, Primeval started not going. There were multiple big companies that just saw it as a loss. Like, you weren't technically getting in front of more people at the Olympia than you would by using Facebook ads and direct marketing on social media. So it was like, it didn't make much sense. You could take the same, like half the money you would spend at the Olympia, invest it into marketing on social media and even ambassadors and athletes, and you would make 10 times the return on investment than if you went to the Olympia. Whereas back in the day, they didn't have social media to do that. They had to go to these expos. And the Olympia kept taking advantage of that and jacking up the prices on things, making it to where it was almost unaffordable. And then at that point, companies started going, return on investment, we're wasting a lot of money doing this shit. It was more for the people that wanted to be perceived as successful. Well, they spend a bunch of money on it. They use it as write-off for the taxes for the end of the year, stuff like that. But it got to the point where a lot of companies were just like, there's no return on investment. Like, we're wasting money doing this. So we're just not going to do it anymore. So as you saw that start to happen, at the same time, it was like, Rich Piana had passed away, so 5% wasn't there. So like the actual attendance of the expos was down. And it was like we started going and it was like there were less people there, like in general. There were less booths, like it got smaller and smaller. They moved it from one place to another. And then there were holes. Instead of just being a smaller expo and still full of booths, there were holes. They were like missing booths because they couldn't sell them. And the last time we went, which was 2018, there were fucking holes. There were parts in the Olympia that were completely bare, whereas a few years earlier, there's tons. I mean, it was like sometimes you couldn't even get a booth unless you got there within a certain time frame because they were all sold. So the whole thing was just kind of going downhill. And, I understand the way that was run. People were not happy with the way it was run. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that people were complaining about. And myself, it was just, you could see it steadily decline from about 2015. Maybe even 2016 was okay. 2017 was worse. 2018 was terrible. And last year, what happened was we had our tickets. We were checked into the planes and stuff. We were ready to go. And our dog, Brady, actually got bit by some kind of poisonous spider over here in Virginia, which we have some really poisonous shit here. It's pretty bad. We have black widows, brown recluse, all this shit. And he was ill. We had to rush him to the emergency room the night before we were leaving. So we were leaving the next day at like 8 a.m. or something like that. And 1 o'clock in the morning, we were at the vet with him. So, and I made the executive decision to say, I looked at my wife, I was like, if you want to go, I'll stay home with him. And of course, my wife was like, no, you have to go. And I was like, I don't want to go. I need to be here. If something's wrong with him, I can't leave him. That's just how I felt. And we weren't really torn about it because both of us realized we were making the right decision. But as the weekend went along, we noticed the social media coverage wasn't there. Like, people weren't posting all these pictures with the pros and all their favorite, YouTubers or whatever. Like, it wasn't big like that like it was in years in the past. And then it got to the point where, we started talking to people. They're like, yeah, it definitely wasn't sold out at the show either. Like, there were definitely holes. They said, a sold out arena. Like, I don't know, maybe people fucking bought the tickets and decided not to go. Like, whatever. I don't believe that for a minute that it was sold out. But it got worse and worse. And then what happened was when it was all said and done, I had people contact me and go, hey, I'm sorry you didn't make it out there, but you didn't miss anything. Like, it absolutely fucking sucked. Like, the expo was shit. Like, and they were like, the competition itself, they're like, many people didn't even go to it because they were fucking bummed out about the expos and stuff. And some people that lived locally and shit, like California stuff, they left a day early because they were like, fuck it. Like, there's nothing more to see here. Like, we did it all in one day. So it really was on the decline. And I've heard that they were talking about selling the Olympia. And this is a rumor that can not be confirmed or denied either way. But they were trying to sell the Olympia to someone very well known that they were asking too much money for it. And this individual is like, I don't know, fuck it, I'll do my own thing. And now this individual is having his own show, again, and it cannot be confirmed or denied. And it was already getting traction. He hasn't even had this show, and it was already getting more traction last year when they announced it than the fucking Olympia's had in 2 years. So the Olympia was definitely not looking like the top spot anymore, even though it's the most, it's the best bodybuilder in the world when you win. It wasn't going to be the big expo and it wasn't going to be the best anymore. It was pretty much, it was done. It was going to be overtaken. And I know that, Mr. Mannion stood behind, of course, the AMI Weeder at the Olympia. He also stood behind this other individual. Let's just be real. It's The Rock. Stands behind him for doing his show and things like that. And it got to the point where it was like, you can't have the Olympia going down like that, but they can't keep charging the money that they are and screwing people over just because they can and they're the Olympia. Something's got to give. You'll hit a critical mass and it's got to go backwards. Well, here we are today after the probably, in my opinion, the worst Olympia that there ever was, as far as quality of the competitors and the expo, the way it was run, everything in general. And it's been sold. Now, it's been in Vegas because that's where AMI Weeder like to keep it. Now, with this new individual, he no longer has to be in Vegas. It could travel around the world like it used to. It used to go to Finland. I remember Dorian Yates being in Finland competing. It used to travel the world. It could go to New York. They could put it wherever the fuck they want now because it's under new, I don't say new management, but new ownership. This makes it kind of exciting. Like, if this individual is already pushing for women's bodybuilding to come back, and they've been doing a really good job at that the Wings of Strength is very well known now very quickly, there's a good possibility this individual, Jake Woods, he could absolutely blow this thing back up to make it the top expo and competition again. Now it has like some interesting hope behind it. Like, we hope that it could regain that place where everybody can't wait to go and all the big companies want to go and everybody's cool because it's a mutually beneficial thing and not just the hierarchy of the Olympia making all the money and everybody else underneath basically starving and getting scraps what's left because they can, right? Just because they could charge that money. And everybody thought, well, the Olympia. Now, the fact that The Rock has this other show popping up, wait a minute. This one combines bodybuilding, the entertainment industry. It combines everything. And now bodybuilders and competitors and other athletes may get opportunities in movies because now you have the entertainment aspect being moved in and everybody's going to be mingling together. That makes people go, well, shit, that's even cooler. That's something I've never seen. And The Rock's involved. I mean, when The Rock came to the Olympia, he blew the roof off the fucking place. So it was like, now you're looking at, okay, well, really, how would the Olympia even compete with The Rock? Right? The Rock show is after the Olympia. So therefore, some people may go, I can't afford both. I'm going to sit out the Olympia and go to the Rock thing. It's the first year. I want to see how this thing pops off. Let's go, you know? So now it's like October, where the Rock show is, September. Hell, I mean, these guys could even move the Olympia to a different time. I mean, like a different month. They could do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't have to be an Olympia, even though traditionally it has been. We need to shake some shit up and fucking change some stuff. And it looks like, you know, these individuals are going to do that. So I think it's a great thing that it's been sold. I think Amaya Weeder had their hands in it too long, and they basically did things that wasn't really in the best interest of the sport itself or the industry itself. And now I'm looking forward to maybe that possibly changing. So let's see what happens. But as of right now, the Mr. Olympia is no longer owned by Amaya Weeder, which is interesting. And we're moving into a new era of what the Olympia could possibly be. And if I'm totally honest with you, I'm not going to talk shit, but I'm just going to be real. Like, anything is better than the way it's been. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. And that's coming from a person who's been in the industry for almost 30 years, but somebody who's legitimately a big fan of bodybuilding in general. And it didn't have that draw anymore. It just didn't. There was other things I think that, you know, people would rather do than spend all that money to go out there and maybe not see their favorite, you know, pro or their favorite YouTuber or whatever because that person couldn't be flown out and taken care of because that company spent so much on the booth that they couldn't afford to get the athletes and stuff out there. They just need the products and stuff and the companies out there so they can try to get their names known, and they couldn't bring some of the athletes and stuff out. So that would be, you know, obviously an awful thing, which has been happening. So let's see where it goes, guys. So keep your eyes out, and I'm sure there's going to be more press releases very soon. But as of now, the industry is about to change. BossCheng@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BossCheng.com is a blog. It's a change is good bicep, and we are out.